And we're going to talk about Harry Sisson. I have so many thoughts, so many feelings. Imagine if the roles were reversed. Like, nobody would give a... If you don't know who Harry Sisson is, let me show you. Hold on, we'll find him. You know, like that young lib debate boy TikTokers that look like they've all crawled out of like a boy band? Like it's the boy band of debate TikTokers. I don't know how it happened, but that's what it is. It's Dean Withers, Parker, Chris Mowry, and Harry Sisson. The 4 23-year-old fuckboy looking TikTokers. Here we go. Here's him, just so you can see what he looks like.
Donald Trump has ruined America's reputation so much that politicians in Canada, one of America's biggest allies, are now telling their citizens to just not...
They look like the kind of guys that, like, significantly older, like 50 plus women are inappropriate in how they talk to them, right? Kind of that, like, boy, a little bit twinky, where you're like, is he gay or is he just fashionable? It's really hard to know. Girls love that shit, okay? Did know debaters? Yeah, apparently there's a whole debate scene on TikTok. The boys. It's crazy to have all these pictures. Oh, I'm literally, my face is over Harry. There you go. The boys. He is a TikTok debater, rose to prominence. And he's kind of like, it seems like the Democrats, like the Congress people, like love him the most. They have had him in the White House often. I think he might have met Joe Biden. I could be wrong about that. So the drama is basically Harry Sisson convinced 11 different women that he had no roster. Why the language had no roster is relevant, we'll get into, and that he respected them for more than their bodies while persuading them to send explicit photos. What you'll notice is that if you're a good investigative journalist, you don't add very morally laden statements in there like persuading them to send explicit photos of themselves, because that sounds coercive, sounds like they originally didn't want to, but he convinced them to anyways, which is, just to be very clear, doesn't seem to have any evidence for that. It sounds like they were into him, he was into them, they sent nudes and were sexting, because that's what a lot of people do when they start dating, is they sext. By the way, stupid, in my personal opinion, but sexting, that is. Including one of them from a domestic abuse survivor. Again, the inclusion of that has nothing to do with Harry. Harry is not the abuser. He's not a domestic abuser in any way. It just happens that one of the girls he was also sexting with in a previous unrelated relationship experienced DV, which is serious, and I feel bad for her that she experienced DV, and also has no reason to be included here except for just making everything sound worse. Which drives me crazy, by the way. When women discovered each other one by one, he called them all insane, attempted to coerce them into telling the public that the photos were fake. What it sounds like that is, it's hard to like get good receipts on that, but it sounds like basically he tried to convince one friend, according to her, I haven't seen any receipts for this, that the photos were fake, which, by the way, is dumb. If it's true, stupid. Don't try to tell people don't lie. If you got sex from girls, don't lie about it. That's weird. Also useless. Also, just starting to say this. If you're a liberal who believes in sexual revolution, it's fine to sext. Problem that people have here is multifold. However, the main problem is that while he told all the girls that they were non-exclusive, which are in receipts. Here's an example. We were not exclusive and I made it abundantly clear I didn't want that, and you said that was fine. I haven't done anything that wasn't allowed within the parameters we set. What and why are you screenshotting? Okay. One thing I will note in this entire thing is she goes through a whole bunch of the different women, they're women. I don't know why I put it. Women, we'll see. We have yet to have doctors check their genitalia, actually, and as a Republican, as a good Republican, you would expect Sarah to validate. I'm just kidding. This is a bit. Most of what Sarah Fields posts, thank you for the $10, is the different girls. Carly is the girl who came out first. The reason Carly came out, according to her, is that she had been sexting and texting and flirting with him for about 9 months. To be clear, they never met. Carly says this in her video. You can just go watch it. because I'm not going to watch all like 17 minutes of it. It's very like wander talky. But essentially, she claims they never met, but they were sexting, flirting, interested. He told her, I believe this was the girl that he said that she was like wifey material, or that like he was sold on her wife application. There was a day that she had where like there was a traumatic event that had happened in her past, and it was the day of the anniversary, and he like reached out to connect with her to see if she was doing okay. So he wasn't just sexting them. It seems like he was forming emotional connections and a deeper relationship with romantic nature. However, he also made it clear throughout the relationship that they were not exclusive. What he didn't make clear is if he was talking to other women. That's the issue, okay? Is that it's not clear if he told them whether he was talking to other women. He just said, we're not exclusive. At first, he tried to imply that this was fake, that it wasn't real. So these are just receipts that, yes, indeed, he was flirting and sexting with Carly. Again, I haven't seen like any proof so far of him saying that it's not real. Other than calling her crazy, but calling her crazy doesn't mean he's saying we've never sexted. If somebody sees evidence of that, that's super fair. Just so it's clear, I've never been under the illusion that he wasn't sexting them. I believe that. And if that was a line of defense he used, it's really stupid. It's a very bad line of defense. More receipts of people sexting him. So he has sexted for sure. Undoubtedly, this 23-year-old male, very famous influencer, has sexted women, which is important for the Republicans because many people believed him to be gay. So we've discovered he is, in fact, at least bi. All right. Now, a quote. I'm fighting for accountability. He has yet to acknowledge he did anything wrong, and that's really sad. However, I'm saying I'm beyond blessed and frankly shocked to have connected with so many amazing people over this horrible experience. Thank you for confirming my feelings throughout these last 9 months. Are these lefties weird like this? I guess it depends on what you mean by weird. Here's more women coming forward. They had a large video about it.
Flat told us, hey, I am talking to other people. When we asked, when all like a fucking dozen of us asked, hey, are you talking to anybody? Instead, he lied and said he did not have a roster and that he was not talking to anybody. That if he had flat told us.
So the roster bit comes from this girl. All of the receipts included in here have nothing to do with Harry other than this video where she says that he claimed he didn't have a roster. Okay? Every other receipt is to prove that she was a domestic abuse victim. But again, and I can't emphasize this enough, her domestic abuse victim status is not related to Harry in any way. And I don't know why we keep bringing it up. It is unrelated to the situation. Sad to hear that she was in a domestically violent situation and glad to hear that she got out. Awesome. The only reason to include this is to increase the size and feelings associated with the moral condemnation of Harry Sisson. That is the only reason to include that information, just to be super clear. More of Harry's lies. There's not a competition. I'm not getting nudes from a bunch of girls. Okay. Now, the problem is that it sounds like he was getting nudes. Now, some things that have not been established to my knowledge up until this point, even still to this point, when he told the girl that he doesn't have a roster of girls, it's possible he was lying because he just had 11 other girls that he was texting, at least. It's also possible that the time that he said it, sounds like he said it in December, so sounds like that wasn't true. It's also possible that he wasn't lying. What he meant by roster is something different than how she took it. She took it to mean, I don't have a roster. I'll actually let you explain what she took it to mean.
He did inform me that there was no roster, essentially implying I was the only person he was talking to, the only person he was receiving photos from. And I was, again, fine with that. But of course, the only person he was receiving photos from.
Just to be clear, saying that you don't have a roster is not the same thing as saying that you're exclusive in any way, shape, or form. In fact, it sounds like not a single girl has come forward to say that he has told them that they were, in fact, exclusive. There's been no evidence of that whatsoever, other than this girl interpreting it to mean that there were no other girls. Okay? All of the leaks to this point include him saying, just so you know, we're not exclusive. And my bad if I didn't make that more clear earlier. I just want to be very clear that we're not exclusive. Every single girl who has talked about the situation seems to have been under the impression that it was casual, increasingly romantic and flirty and sexual, all over text. And then at some point delivered the not exclusive. The reason why Carly made the first video about any of this is he had been pulling away for a while, and then he released this video with some anonymous girl stroking his cheeks and taking a photo. She claims his neck is covered in hickeys.
I get it. She wanna come with me, I get it. She wanna come for me, I get it. Diamonds dance that she want it, I get it.
I don't really see hickeys. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Just gonna say, I think to see hickeys in that video requires a high level of zooming in and fixating. So, as of right now, Harry has not apologized for his behavior. However, Dean and Parker have distanced themselves, said that they're not friends with them anymore. Them being Harry Sisson and Chris Mowry. Chris Mowry's caught up in this, because he's super, super close to Harry. I think they're like, it's like Dean and Parker, Harry and Chris. And he's in this video where they're saying, nah, she's crazy. No, you're good, bro. That's why Chris is involved in all this. He has no other claims against him. So, what are people's issues here? One of the biggest issues that I think is actually worth engaging with is fake male feminists. Stroke his cheeks. I suspect he said Sabrina was like, where's the porn at? So I have for a long time had a strong dislike of fake male feminists. And to be clear, I have never been convinced that Harry Sisson isn't one of these people, in large part because I think to be towing the PC liberal democratic line, you basically have to do a lot of posturing around women's stuff specifically, or you cannot be part of the left group. Like, you will get kicked out, especially as a man. As a woman, you have a little bit more flex, right? Most women would agree that I'm left-leaning. They just don't like that I have like atypical feminist perspectives, but I wouldn't get kicked out because I'm a girl. For a man, especially to be in the very traditional democratic liberal PC space, you have to be very pro-women, right? You have to respect women. That's like the biggest thing. And I'm not saying respecting women is good or bad. What I am saying is that the Democrats certainly don't care, and it's definitely not part of the culture or the prerequisites to respect men. There's an obvious level of unique treatment that the left gives women. And now you might say that that's justified. And to some degree, I would say I agree with you. The question is it justified in this situation? So there are the girls that are coming forward. A lot of them are wanting him to be canceled. They want his career to be over. They think that basically all of his values are fake. One, I do not know how you exist in the liberal space as a white young male and not have some level of performative feminism, because it's required. Now, I will say for Harry that it would be better if he was less performative about woman-related stuff in the past, because I think he just is a womanizer. Obviously, he's got like 11 women going on at the same time. However, if you're sex positive and you're open to casual sex, I think that's just fine.
You won't watch the videos because they're wonder talky. 1. You ignore victims yet again. 2. What do you think your content is?
Yeah, but people are here to listen to me wander talk. Ryle Tittenhouse. You really thought you had one there. Also, I just want to be super clear. Probably one of the worst things that we do in all of this is we equate very serious allegations like grooming to very high school petty drama. Is Harry Sisson a womanizer? Yes. Does it seem like he was honest about the fact, even though he was honest about not being exclusive with this woman, was he honest about how many other women he was talking to? Sounds like no. Sounds like no, he wasn't, which is not good. That's a bad thing to do. You should be more honest about it. However, on the flip side, A, you are not entitled to your casual sexual partner's information on their body and what they're doing with their body, right? Especially if it's casual and non-exclusive. You're not entitled to that information. However, if you explicitly lied to these girls, that's obviously bad. The problem is, it's like high school drama bad. It's not, he can never work in left-leaning politics ever again bad. This is obvious. This is obviously true. Anyone in politics is inherently a false advertiser. To some degree, yeah. I think there's a lot more performativity that's required on the left than there is on the right. The right is increasingly starting to do some really interesting purity testing. Particularly, I've started noticing this interesting thing where like the 2016 Trumpers feel a certain level of purity over like the 2024 voting Trumpers, which is very interesting. So Harry Sisson, womanizer for sure. And not fully honest about what non-exclusive means. Seems like intentionally to some degree to have obfuscated, maybe even so far as explicitly lied, right? Here's the question. Imagine the gender roles were reversed. It's a girl. She's famous. She's a political content creator. And she's got 11 different men that she's flirting with, she's sexting, she's non-exclusive with, and she's being vague. Did you see Parker and Dean's response? Yeah, I mean, Parker and Dean basically fully cut them off, said that they were bad, talked about the victims, and said that they're not friends anymore because the reality is that if they didn't, their own audience would eat them alive. And to be clear, when I'm talking tomfoolery about purity testing and the problem with the left, this is part of what I'm talking about. Harry Sisson does seem to have a very unintegrated form of feminism, right? I don't think that you nearly love and respect women the way that you do if you're like this casually open and doing this much casual sex. You probably have a very normal amount, but the very normal liberal amount of respect for women is like third wave 2010 bare minimum, right? That I don't really care for. I think it's actually kind of cringe and bad. I'm really hoping Ryle Tittenhouse will donate some more money. I'm waiting for it. I can see him gearing up. They've been doing this since Lindsay Ellis. They've been doing this since before Lindsay Ellis. She's just the one that makes me the most sad because she's just a nice girl. Okay. What would be better to happen in the left is when something like this happens, we go, okay, first of all, Harry, you've probably always had some level of internalized sexism because most liberal men do. Okay. Most liberal men do. And the reason that they do is because liberal Democrats have stuck to lib feminism, and lib feminism doesn't seem to do a very good job of saying femininity itself is respect-worthy and good, and we should value it. It says women can be men too, which is valuable for some women like me, but not the type of feminism that I care for or I'm interested in. Another thing is, there is no level of authenticity that any content creator on the left can really exist within where they wouldn't get fired, because people aren't perfect. People make mistakes. People make human mistakes. Now, there's a big difference between human mistakes and major problems, right? Obviously. However, telling girls that you're non-exclusive and being vague or maybe straight up lying about how many other girls you're talking to is not cancelable. It's just not. Full stop. Is he a womanizer? Yes. Is that in my mind in line with the form of feminism that I like value and the way that I think women should be treated? No, I actually don't. I just also don't even think that that's the form of feminism that anyone's even asking for. What they're looking for is a performance. What they're looking for is respect woman, which unfortunately isn't really clear what that means. It seems like it's a lot about vibes. What are some reasonable takes to have? I think thinking Harry Sisson doesn't actually have a good understanding of feminism and wore it as a veil of performativity. I think he cared about feminism in a very puddle deep way, wore it as a veil for popularity, to be a left-wing content creator, but it never actually meant that much to him. I would probably just agree. That's probably true. That's actually probably true of most left-leaning creators. When left-leaning creators that are white, for example, they talk about Indigenous lives or Black people's lives, they don't care that much, because caring, in my worldview, means that it informs your behavior, right? The problem that the left has is we chase out people that by and large are doing good work, that share 98% of our values for things. Why do you think the left is very cool with open love, but not okay with men having casual affairs with multiple women? I think the left doesn't have a unifying moral system anymore. It feels like a long time ago, it's reasonable to be skeptical of that Sisson, given the behavior. I think everyone should be skeptical of the level of like trueness to which she's a true feminist. I just hate that on the left, you're expected to perform, to care about all of these things. And if you don't, you will be chased out. I think Harry Sisson and Dean and all these guys probably have to wear, in fact, Dean and Parker have distanced themselves for optics. It's exclusively for optics because they can't have their own audience eating their own. And I think it's a really big shame that the left has become this space where we eat our own unless they're perfect, but nobody's going to be perfect and everyone fears their own woke mob. I think that that's really bad. I think that that leads to people who otherwise can do good work, that are decent orators, that are decent debaters, being increasingly estranged. I think that that's not good. I think the left needs to have a community, and part of community can be going to Harry and saying, hey, this is why it's a little odd that you do this and this and this. I actually think, despite, there's a chatter here. I hope it's okay that I say your name. I think it's okay. There's a chatter here named Layla, who we disagree all the time. One thing I really appreciate about Layla is that we can have lots and lots and lots and lots of discussions about disagreeing. But by and large, it's actually Layla who was the one that convinced me to use the label feminist again, because she said it doesn't matter if you disagree with a whole bunch of tenets. If you care about women and femininity being respected, you're a feminist. And you'll have to, if you believe that it's bad or wrong, you'll have to like fix it from the inside out. And I was like, you know what? That's kind of true. Right? So the left can have these wrestlings with one another. That's good. It's really good, right? I'm going to be wrong about things. Ezra Klein is going to be wrong about things. There are going to be positions that we just can't actually satisfy with facts or anything like that because they're unknowable, that we will fundamentally disagree on. But they're still part of the left. They can still champion good things. Harry Sisson can be a womanizer and still be, for example, broadly pro-woman being treated well, having access to medical health care, be pro-abortion access. He can obviously hold all these positions together. I just think it's bad that the left requires this performance. I think it's wrong that Harry performed in that way to be like this like champion male feminist. And it's like, I don't know if you actually care that much, right? I think that that's bad. It's icky. And I don't like it. But we have to have grace for our own and a couple of principled hard lines, which I understand, as Tom said, is two mutually exclusive positions. But we have to find a dialectic here, which is some balance between purity testing is useless and harms our own group, and also not all people get to be in the in-group, right? We have to solve the paradox of tolerance. We have to solve it on the left because we need a moral and ethical through line that we can all align around. We have to do it. Yeah, Tom is fair should probably be one of the precepts of liberalism. Like, obviously. I'm just kidding. All right. Now, it's possible that Harry Sisson genuinely is a staunch feminist. He's just kind of some like weird third wave and he cares a lot about it and is very read up on it. Probably not. It's bad that there's a level of performativity that's occurred. I'm still stunned for how 9 beautiful women fell for a soft boy. Jesus. I don't know. He's like, especially they're like all 20, right? He's like a hot, famous, basically straight out of a boy band, but he's like intellectual. And it sounds like he was nice. Like he was also kind to them. Final thought. It's really, really, really important that we reserve morally strong words for morally strong behaviors. Chud did a great review, but I wouldn't watch that because of morals. I mean, yeah, true. I'm kidding. I was actually probably wrong to say that about Chud. I really dislike Chud, but I shouldn't say because of morals. It's because I dislike him all the way through, bottom to top. Well done. Men don't draw attention, Erudite. Myron's video is just him clapping for 11 minutes. Yeah. Moral language. There is a tendency for clips, for attention, but also for getting eyes generally, that we use really strong moral language for behaviors that are otherwise not that severe, right? And this has led to a very bad watering down of words. So the term racist, right? If you listen to Republicans, that's like a badge of honor to be called a racist, right? For most content creators, one of the first things that we'll like often bond over is like if you've been called Chud is a raging transphobe. I don't think so. I don't think Chud is a transphobe. I just think like he's traded his entire political moral positions for drama content, which is fine. You could do that. I just hate the moralizing that happens on top of it, and I don't like him. I thought you got along with Chud amicably. Well, we used to get along-ish, and we're both polite. Do you think there's legitimate comparisons you can make between Harry Sisson and historical figures like Nelson Mandela and Adolf Hitler from an indigenous standpoint? No. And you shouldn't, right? White preferentialism and white privilege that is super rampant amongst the liberal Democrat side, that leads to a very shallow understanding of people of color's issues, and therefore a very shallow engagement and performative response to it. It's very cringe and bad. It also has nothing to do with, like, there's no world that you compare these two things because of the extremes. I think this is obviously true. It's bad that being called a Nazi, a racist, a feminazi, and a tanky are all just like achievements you get if you're in content creation. That's not a good thing because it means that these words don't mean anything. If you're really mad at Harry, which I think you can be, I think you just can be like, man, what the fuck, dude? I thought you were better than this. I think that that's fair. That's a super fair position. You can't call him a groomer. They're all adults. There's no grooming. Sexting people isn't grooming. And all you're doing is you're turning to all victims of legitimate grooming, which is a very serious problem and a very severe behavior, and you're telling them, you have more coming into the support group, okay? I know you were groomed by like a 32-year-old man since the time you were 8 to do slowly increasingly sexual acts on yourself, and you have an extremely fucked up perception of what consent and sexuality even looks like because your entire childhood was built and based on hiding and protecting your sexual abuser who is slowly grooming you to accept increasingly sexual behaviors. You also have to make room for the girl that Harry wasn't clear about the level of non-exclusivity he was with them. We're all making a group together now. We're not doing that shit, okay? We're not calling everything rape. We're just not going to do it. Because then all we're doing is returning to rape victims, like actual rape victims. I mean, like, move over. There's new seats coming in. Not good. Very bad. Oddly specific. The groomer one? I mean, I've worked with both groomers, people who have been charged with pedophilia, and the victims of it. There's a strange phenomenon where anytime anyone does anything people don't like, it's characterized as something extreme regardless of the validity of that claim. And it's harmful to the words of that claim. And it dilutes the conversation because everyone knows you're full of shit. Okay? Everyone knows that when you call Harry's behavior exploitation and coercion, that you're full of shit. All it does is make it more easy to dismiss actual exploited victims of exploitation, actual victims of coercion, because these words are so watered down, they don't mean anything anymore. Okay? I have to stop. It's fucked up. Stop doing it. I really don't like when we compare that negative experience, which is legitimately negative, to an actual severe thing. I don't like when we do that because all it does is it reduces the validity, the claim, and the power of this person's experience, which I think is bad. Feeling a need to turn all moral actions into the same level of extreme moral action is actually harmful to the social dialogue about morality, which our society, especially because we've kicked church out dominantly from society, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, has to now answer the morality question. Society has to start agreeing and forming some central union of morality. And you can't do that if in the social square, all misdeeds are the same level of extreme misdeeds. Because if what Harry did is grooming, then what is grooming? Is that also grooming? Are they just now equally bad? You're just like, we're just gonna Mott and Bailey everything so people listen to us? It's not good. Don't you think that Harry is actually the same as Epstein? I think everyone who's ever done any sexual misconduct is the same as Epstein, actually.